to EdWise Education, Literacy, and Life. I'm Dr. Kay Childs, and I missed you all last week. I'm actually going to be sharing my 2 Cents Tuesday tip from July 3rd, and I'm going to go ahead and get started. This video will probably be a little bit short, but it has a lot of meaning to it. It's a continuation of my series, Classrooms Are Built in the Summer. I'm excited as to where this series is going to lead, but I'm going to go ahead and get started. From July 3rd, my 2 Cents Tuesday tip on Instagram, it was planning for your classroom environment involves more than just your chosen theme. Educators, remember that the classroom is your space, but it also belongs to your students. So, I made that post because I know as educators, we are planners, and we always usually like to come up with some type of theme or main idea. I've seen it get to the point with some educators and even online where people are so caught up in their theme that they forget to think about what their students are interested in, and if that theme even matters or has any impact on what they're supposed to be teaching and what the students are supposed to be learning. Themes are great. I'm not anti-theme, but the point of that message was just to make sure that we aren't so wrapped up in a theme that we forget about what's most important. And that's your students. Making sure they're connected, making sure they're comfortable, making sure that you have comfortable learning space, make sure you have proper learning spaces for your students. So, a couple of quick things, just really 2 points. What I always did, I'm going to be honest, because I taught ELAR, literacy, English language arts, of course, my theme was related to literacy. However, because I always had such a diverse group of students, I always had something usually travel related. I never really had in 11 years of working in public education, in the K through 12 setting, I never really had a theme. My theme was basically our environment, who I was as a person. I wanted to let the students know who I was and what I represented, as well as I wanted the classroom to reflect who they are and what they brought to the classroom. So, for an example, I saw someone on Instagram, but I did this as well. I literally would plan things down to the T, meaning the furniture. I'm married to an architect, and I think maybe that's where a little bit of him comes in with me. Is I knew what furniture I had in my classroom, or would find out. I found out the space. I found out the windows. I would really find out everything that I needed. I was blessed to be in the same classroom for a long time, but if I moved, I had to find out what was going on with the classroom. And I literally would take the shapes of the tables, all the number of tables that I had, and draw out a plan of the space that I wanted. I wanted it to flow a certain way. It just had to feel right to me. I would think about, how I felt as a student sitting in a certain place, how I would feel, where I would want my reading area to be, what would make it more comfortable, what type of books would I want in that area. That's a whole nother video. But just thinking about the flow and how you would want your classroom to look when you step into that room. The biggest compliment that I had from students was, your room feels like home. It feels comfortable. It feels warm in here. So those are things you want to really think about when you step in that room. What do you feel like walking into that room? So I would draw out the room, the door, the windows. Where I wanted my desk to be was highly important. There are many teachers that like their desk to be in the front. There are some that like theirs to be in the back. I know one year I had mine even with the students, and with some people that would drive people crazy, but for me, I wanted them to feel comfortable enough to approach me, or to just to not feel like I'm just a separate part of them. Of course, that does get into students not understanding sometimes your space and people needing space in their own space, but that's something that you would have to work out with your students. Um, you want to make sure that you have spaces where students can work on their own, whether it be with a partner, whether it be individually. You want to make sure you have a place where you can work with students in small groups. Um, it's just very, very important that you really think and ask yourself some questions. Main questions that I would ask is, one, does your classroom reflect who you are as an educator? And does your classroom or future classroom, is it going to reflect who your students are? Leave spaces up for students to be able to contribute. We always had a place where students could put their work, where we would have work samples where you could see the work that students have done. One thing that I did in the past, and I may have shared this in a prior video, is I had my former students, before they left to summer break, they would write letters to the future students and explain what it's like to be in my class, explain what it's like to attend that school, and just give some little hints and tips and pieces of advice. So, you want to leave some space open. I was one of those people that, yes, I had a lot of things hanging up, but I also left some flexibility for my students to be able to contribute. One year I had a specific spot for students each week to be showcased. We first would start off would be an introductory showcase of the students. Then later it might be something where they would showcase their work or showcase something about themselves. So that's how I kind of did things. Now, I say this and I talk a lot about planning, but you also need to leave room for some flexibility. Meaning, I told you all I would draw out like down to this rectangular table, and I have this many tables in the way that I would want them, but I always moved my furniture when it needed to be moved. Basically, if we had something that we were doing, or if I found, that the space needed to be revamped, I'd never left things the same the entire year. The room kind of grew and transformed with myself and with my students. But it's very, very important to start off to put a lot of thought and care into how you at least want to start your classroom, and to not get so caught up into a theme. Again, your theme should be, are your students comfortable? Is it set up for your students to learn? And is it reflecting your students? And is it reflecting you and who you are? And when I say you is who you are, I had things that from my travels. I had things from when I was in school that I would share with the students. Things from my university that the students could see and ask questions. Things that reflected my family, where I was from. Those are things that were personal to me that the students were able to see, and it made them ask questions, as well as it allowed them to feel a little bit more comfortable in being who they are and sharing who they are with me. All right, so that is the 2 cents for today. That actually is from July 3rd, but it is part of Classrooms Are Built in the Summer, and I want to make sure that you share this video with someone who is getting ready to prepare their classroom. And I also want to remind you to teach, lead, and serve. And I will see you all in a video very, very soon for another 2 cent tip coming up. All right, I want you to thank you for watching, and I would like for you to take care. Bye-bye. More great things are in store for this Classrooms Are Built in the Summer series. Continue to like, share, subscribe, and make sure to comment below. Thank you for watching.